Hey guys, my name is Sydney. I am here from justahomeowner.com. Today we're going to learn how to make a budget for your kitchen design. I started Just a Homeowner in 2020 to teach all new homeowners how to design, maintain, and finance their homes. I know it can be really scary moving out of your parents' home for the first time, and that's why I'm here. I wanted to help all of you learn what you needed to do for your homes. When you're working on your kitchen remodel, your first step should always be to set a budget. But within setting that budget, there are 7 steps that you can use so that your budget will be successful. The scariest part of any major remodel is how you're going to pay for it. Step 1 is to set your budget amount. And what I mean by that is to decide how much you're ultimately going to spend on your remodel. When you're looking at your checkbook at the end of the day, how much can you really afford to spend on your remodel? Is it a couple of $100 or is it a few $1,000s? What is your ultimate top of the line budget that you can afford right now? When you're setting your budget for your kitchen remodel, it should be between 6 and 10% of your home's value. That way it makes sure that you don't over remodel your home. For example, if you live in a neighborhood that all of the other homes have laminate countertops, it may not be a good decision to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a custom-made stone countertop. Look at your home's overall value, and between 6 and 10% of that is what you should consider for your kitchen remodel. It should not put any undue stress on your life for your kitchen remodel. Please make sure that it's something that actually fits in your budget. Once you've decided on your maximum budget, subtract 10 to 20% of that. That 10 to 20% plans for the unexpected. I promise you, when you open up your walls, you're going to find things that you were not planning on. It's going to be plumbing issues, electrical issues, maybe even structural issues. That 10 to 20% is going to save you in the end. Of course, the more you subtract out now, the safer you're going to be. If you take out 20%, you're going to be pretty safe. If you think that you know a lot about what's in your walls and you think you're safe with subtracting out 10%, that's fine. Just know that that 10 to 20% is your safety net. So once you've subtracted out that 10 to 20%, that is now your kitchen remodel budget. Again, and I cannot stress this enough, please don't put yourself in a bad situation. It will do you no good to have a beautiful kitchen, but you can't actually enjoy it because you can't afford the home anymore. Step 2 is to make sure that you have a payment plan in place. How are you going to pay for this remodel? There's a few different options. Credit cards are a very popular way to pay for remodels. They are difficult to keep in check, but it's a good way to get some good rewards, maybe some airline miles. I will warn you, it's very hard on your credit, and for the vast majority of us, I would not recommend a credit card as a way to pay for your remodel. It's very shaky ground, and you can get yourself into a lot of debt very, very fast. So be very cautious if you're going to use credit cards, in my opinion. Loans are another common way to pay for a remodel. It can be a home renovation loan from a bank, or even a HELOC, which is using your home equity in order to pay for your remodel. One thing to note for loans is that you need to have them in place early. They're not something that you can set up one day and be able to use the next. There may be multiple months that you would have to wait to be approved for a loan. So make sure, if that's your plan, that you're working on getting those in place as early as possible. Loans are a great way to afford a lot more in your remodel. You are using your home or maybe even your credit score as collateral, so be a little bit cautious with it, but for the most part, a home equity loan or a HELOC is a great way to pay for your remodel. The hardest way for most of us to pay would be using checks or debit cards. I don't know very many people that have $20,000 in their checking account right now to pay for a kitchen remodel. I just don't. It is the best for your credit. It's the easiest to track, but it's a little scary actually seeing $1,000 for that countertop come out of your bank account on Tuesday when you're getting paid on Friday. Step 3 in determining your kitchen remodel budget is to figure out your living situation. You need to know where you're going to live during this remodel. There's 3 major options for you when you're trying to decide where you're going to live during your remodel. The first is to stay in the house while the remodel is being done. It's very hard on families, especially those with kids and pets. It also might extend the working time. If, for example, you want your child to be in bed by 6 p.m., the workman can't actually be in the house past that time. Or maybe you like to sleep in late on Fridays. They couldn't start work until you say they can be in the house. If you're ready for that, it is going to save you the most amount of money by staying in the house. You just need to be aware of how you're going to manage during this because you won't have a working kitchen. You might have to set up a kitchen in the garage or in the family room so that you can actually make meals during that time. You may also want to eat out during this time. Just make sure that if you're going to eat out, that the cost of doing so is a line item in your remodel budget. You can also live with friends or family. Please make sure that before you move in with them, they're up to the task. They're being very gracious and accepting you into their homes. You need to make sure that you're just as gracious as a guest. If that means doing their dishes, helping clean the house, or with chores. If they accept your kids or your pets in the house as well, make sure that you are making their lives as easy as possible because, again, it's going to save you money, but you could be there for months, and you need to make sure that you're not destroying your friendship by being in their house. The highest cost option during a kitchen remodel is actually living in a hotel or a rental. It's the easiest on your family and your pets because they have a house or an apartment to go to still, and there's not going to be any demolition or renovation going on around them. However, it is the highest cost, and especially if you're going to choose this one, it needs to be a line item in your remodel budget. That way you don't have to worry about money. Step 4 in planning your kitchen remodel is to really know your limits. So what are you willing to splurge on? What's worth a higher price for you? What's not as important to you? You might find that one item in your kitchen is incredibly important and you have to have it perfect, and some of the other items you don't mind. There's a lot that goes into a kitchen remodel. From the backsplash to new dishes and lighting, you need to decide what is something that you cannot live without. If you have to have a fridge that has an ice maker in it, it might cost you more. So what are you willing to sacrifice? Do you absolutely need that pot filler over the stove? Maybe you don't have to have brand new dishes to go with your brand new kitchen. Step 5 in planning your remodel is to break down your costs, and this is where it starts to get really fun. You can actually estimate roughly how much each component is going to cost in a standard kitchen remodel. Spending can be broken down into 9 major categories. Cabinets and hardware should be about 35% of your remodel budget. Doors and windows 4%. Appliances and ventilation should be about 14%. Lighting about 5%. Countertops somewhere around 10%, flooring around 7%, walls and ceilings, so any new finishes, textures, or paints is going to be about 5%. Labor should cost around 17% of your budget, and anything else should be about 5% altogether. Don't worry too much if your budget doesn't actually fit into these percentages. This is again for a standard remodel. You are going to be unique and different. So if you have to have perfect lighting, maybe you wiggle a little bit on the countertops and they're only 8% of your budget, but your lighting becomes 7%. This is just a guide to help you establish a budget. Step 6 is actually one of the most important ones in my opinion. You can reduce your labor by actually doing some of the work yourself. There's just 2 things that I want you to be aware of. Do not delay your own project. There's nothing more frustrating. If you want to try drywalling and it has to be done by Tuesday or the cabinet guys can't come in, you need to make sure that you can complete the drywalling by Tuesday. Hold yourself to the same standards you would hold your contractor to, or you're going to be disappointed in the results. Also, you really need to know your limits and abilities. If you cannot do the plumbing correctly, let the professional do the plumbing. Maybe you can offer to work alongside your contractor as an extra hand. They don't usually mind, especially if you ask beforehand. It's a good way to save yourself some money on labor. And that way, some of the 17% could go towards other items in your budget, and you can afford higher end finishes or design choices. The seventh and final step is to research your materials beforehand. The more research that you can do before, the more accurate your budget is going to be. For example, stained cabinets and painted cabinets cost different amounts. You may choose one versus the other depending on where you are in your budget. Hardware finish. It's not something that a lot of people recognize as costing more, but hardware finish does determine pricing. If you choose a more trendy finish, you're going to have to pay more for it. Countertop material definitely will affect your pricing, but some are more worth paying for. If you need a countertop material that you don't need to worry about getting damaged by heat or by chipping or by things falling on it, it's worth paying a little bit more money. At the same time, if you're pretty easy on your countertops, you can maybe afford a less expensive option. Flooring color, flooring type, even the width of the planks in a hardwood floor will change the price of that floor. These are just a few examples, and you will find throughout your remodel that there are tons of examples of items that will cost more or less with just a slight difference in them. So putting these all together, step one is to set your main budget amount. Step one is to set your main budget amount. How much, ultimately, when it's all said and done, are you willing to pay for? Step two is to have a payment plan in place. Are you going to use your credit cards? Are you going to take out a loan? Or are you maybe going to pay for everything dollar for dollar? Step three is to figure out where you're going to live during all of this. It's going to be difficult. You're going to be stressed. At least have a plan for where you're going to put your head at night. Step four is to know your limits. What are you going to absolutely stick to a hard line and you have to pay more for it because it's worth it to you? And what are you willing to flex on? Step five, break down your costs. You should pay roughly 35% for cabinets, but you can pay 30% for cabinets and spend a little bit more on your countertops if you would like. This is where you actually get to write down your budget. Step 6 is reduce your labor. You can do some of the work yourself in order to put more money towards the finishes and fixtures in your kitchen. Step 7 is to research your materials so that you know going into it exactly what your choices will cost, and that way your budget can be accurate. I do recommend at the end of this that you go back through your budget and make sure that it all looks accurate before you start your remodel. Good luck!